going on, MMA fans? I'm back to do my MMA Corner number 20 video. Of course, going to go over topics that were sent to me. Real quick, 1988 SEM 2007, Wrestling Brain, GTO Gunda, UFC Mans, and Tyler Shum. I'm going to get to your topics on the next video. I did not have time for them in this one. As always, at the end of this video, feel free to leave some topics, some suggestions, things you want me to talk about in my next MMA Corner. Let's go ahead and get right down to this. First topic is from Divine Massacre, also known as the MMA Professor here on YouTube. He does videos. Check him out. Wanted me to talk about what's next for Eric Schaefer. Eric Schaefer, of course, beat Antonio Mendez just recently. Two fights kind of really came to my mind that are possible matchups for him. Possibly a fight with Mark Coleman, since Mark Coleman lost to Shogun Rua. Mark Coleman, of course, is on the downturn of his career. That's possibly a good matchup for Eric Schaefer. A fight with James Irvin. James Irvin is a decent grappler, but not at the level of Eric Schaefer. He's got pretty good stand-up, good boxing skills. But, you know, I think there's another matchup that might be good for Eric Schaefer. So those are the two fights that kind of jumped out at me of, you know, what he could do here possibly in the future. Maybe a fight with Mark Coleman, maybe a fight with James Irvin. Those are two possible fights. So thanks for the topic, Sean. Next topic is from Zorzam1. Wanted me to talk about why are there bad matchups in the UFC like Coleman and Rua, and why does the UFC do matchups like George St. Pierre and BJ Penn when BJ Penn hasn't fought anyone at 170 recently to gain a title shot? Well, first of all, the Coleman-Rua fight, you know, you've seen the UFC do this, and they try to do this now with Shogun. They've built up fighters like Roger Huerta, Michael Bisping. They try to give me fights that they know that these guys can get through, to kind of build them up and to kind of make them appealing to the American and the casual fan base. So I think that's why that fight was put together. Unfortunately, Shogun did not look good. His cardio looked very, very bad. Maybe not as bad as the Forrest Griffin fight. I mean, he looked similar to the Shogun of old in the first round, and then, you know, just went downhill from there. But I think that's why they did that fight. The question about why does the UFC do matchups like George St. Pierre and BJ Penn? BJ Penn, yes, hasn't fought anyone at 170 recently. There were arguments made about his title shot at 155. Why did he get a title shot after beating Jens Pulver against Joe Stevenson, and then, you know, he goes on to beat Sean Shirk, and then now getting a title shot at 170 when he hasn't beaten anyone. But, you know, BJ Penn, of course, is very marketable to the casual and diehard MMA fan base. He's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. This is a fight that the fans want to see. The UFC's going to put it on because it's a cash cow. They're going to make so much money off of this. And like I've always said, the UFC, primarily, they're in it as a business. And yes, Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta might, you know, like watching MMA, but at the end of the day, they want to make money. And that's why they're going to put these fights on. Impulse 316420, Jeff, who also does videos here on YouTube, wanted me to talk about is Mir being number 3 and Aoki being number 1 on the MMA Weekly rankings. Are these deserved? You know, Mir beat Nog and finished Nog, which hasn't been done, you know, to Nog in his whole MMA career. I think Mir does deserve to be right there. I think if not 3, maybe top 5. So I think that you could make the legitimate argument for him being at number 3 and him being a top 5 heavyweight. It's really left up to interpretation of how you look at it. Aoki being number 1, again, it's really left up to interpretation. Many people have BJ Penn as number 1. Aoki, you know, beats Eddie Alvarez, who, you know, many considered was going to go on and beat Aoki and thought could beat Aoki, and that was supposed to be the Dream Lightweight final. So now all Aoki has to do is fight Joaquin Hansen. If he beats Joaquin Hansen in a rematch, you know, I think that you could make the legitimate argument that he is the number 1 lightweight in the world. So, I mean, really both of those are left up to interpretation. So thanks for the topic, Jeff. Crazy JMS 599 wanted me to talk about steroids, my thoughts on them. I've kind of talked about this topic a lot, and I'm not really going to beat it to death anymore. But what I will say, steroids, whether it be, you know, as a rehabilitative drug, whether it be to, you know, enhance your performance in an MMA fight, it's totally disrespectful to your opponent, it's disrespectful to the sport, and it's disrespectful to yourself. If you're going to do that, don't fight MMA. Go do something else. Do not fight MMA. Steroids, for the most part, with the exceptions of some, do not enhance cardio. They do not make you better. They do not do anything to help you in an MMA fight other than build up your muscles and make you stronger. This is the argument that many people made about Sean Shirk. It makes no sense that Sean Shirk popped for the type of steroid that he popped for, and his cardio is out the door. You normally don't see that with these kind of guys that take steroids. Of course, you saw Lieben pop for steroids, Hoist Gracie, Phil Baroni, Bigfoot Silva, which that's under a big investigation now because of all of the inconsistencies and all of the very, very shady dealings of the California State Athletic Commission under Armando Garcia. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But steroids overall, regardless of the, if you're innocent or not innocent, and I'm really not wording this very well, but steroids in general, not good. If you're going to do them, do not fight in MMA. It's disrespectful to the sport, to your opponent, to the fans, and to yourself. Do not do them. That's my thoughts on that, bottom line. Metal Dude Buff 92 wanted me to talk about what do I think of the UFC primetime show, the GSP and BJ Penn promos. Is it a good idea? Most definitely. I think this is an awesome way to market to the fan base that is not into MMA yet, to kind of draw them in. And I've talked about this before. It's the little taste, the little appetizer to get them sucked in and to go, wow, mixed martial arts is awesome. This is the coolest sport on the planet right now. We got to check this out. That's what these type of shows do. And even when the UFC shows free fights on Spike, it just gives them the little taste, the little appetizer to get them sucked into MMA. Are they overselling the fight? Not so much. This is a big fight. Both these guys are the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, whether you put them top 5 or not. Everyone has different opinions on this, but these guys are at the top of their weight classes. They're at the pinnacle of their careers. This really isn't overselling the fight. This is a big fight, and I think this is a good fight for both of them. We're really going to get to see which guy is the better fighter, and who probably is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters, bar none, in the world. Does it interfere with the fighters? Apparently it's interfered with BJ Penn, if you haven't read the articles on that. He did not want to be involved with this anymore. He wanted to shut it down because of the way that Dana White and the show was portraying him. But, overall, I don't think so much. It can if it gets out of control. Will this continue? I hope so. I think they'll probably do it again for another big marquee fight, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So, thanks for the topic, all you guys, for the topics. These were great ones. Hopefully I went into depth as much as possible. Leave some comments, some ideas, some suggestions for my next MMA Corner. As always, check out my sponsors. They'll be over on the description side as far as their links. And, of course, at the end of this video, you'll get to see their logos. But on that note, you guys, have a great day.